joy deep down in my heart. I'm waking up with your love from the start. I'm chasing the rainbow through the rain. I know it's gonna be a beautiful day.
What is every parent's nightmare? I think we'd all agree it has to be losing a child, whether by illness, accident, or any other tragedy. It's simply not normal for a mom or a dad to bury their son or their daughter. It's just not the way things are supposed to happen. And yet, so many people know this heartbreak. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Coffee, Conversations of Friends of Faith to encourage and equip. I'm Kim Crabill, your host, and today we're going to talk with parents whose child was taken in a tragic accident. They've agreed to share their grief and their journey so far in the hope that their story will help someone else whose heart is shattered by this loss. I'm so honored to welcome to the show Nicole and Kevin as my guests today. Welcome, guys. I'm so delighted to have you here.
Good morning.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Let's just start out by having you introduce yourselves to our audience this morning.
My name is Nicole Atkins. We are from Mount Airy, North Carolina. I have two daughters. Paige is 19. She is a student at UNC Charlotte. And I have a very live and energetic 2-year-old Graylin.
Graylin. I've heard about Graylin. Yes.
Yes.
So would you like to expound on Graylin a bit?
Graylin, she's brought so much joy back into our life, you know. As you've already heard, we have been through a hard time in our life, but, you know, on God's timing, He's actually put some joy back in our lives by giving us a beautiful little girl.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, guys, let's go back to that day. Let's go back to May 20th, 2016. So I'm sure it probably started as just a regular morning at your house. Take us there and tell us about that day.
I had worked, I'm a nurse, and I had worked the night before. And Brady and I had planned on going swimming that day. So I got up. I remember looking at the microwave. It was 10:33. And I hollered at Brady and asked him if he wanted to eat breakfast before we went, or if he wanted to let it warm up just a little bit. The day was so pretty, and it was beautiful outside. I'll never forget how hot it was. And he said, let's wait just a little bit, and then we'll just eat lunch. And so I messed around the house a little bit, and we talked. And I remember he yelled at me, and he said, Mom, you need to pay my lunch bill, because I was the world's worst at keeping up with lunch money. So I owed $1.88. So he told me I needed to make sure I give him that money for Monday, because they had to go to school on Memorial Day to make up for school days. And so he said, make sure I get that money, because if he didn't, he wasn't going to be able to go to the high school to the Memorial Day festivities that they were going to have. Mm-hmm. And then he proceeded to tell me that he had open gym and basketball. Mm-hmm.
Busy guy.
Yes. Yeah. And I said, are you excited? And he said, yes.
Yeah.
So I told him, I said, well, and he was going to take one of his friends swimming. And I said, well, just call your friend and just let him know that, we'll be there around lunchtime. And I said, I'm going to go out and water the flowers and do some things around the house. So I did. I went outside, I watered the flowers. And in the meantime, Kevin had come in, and he wasn't feeling well at all. So he went and lay down. He had a real bad sinus infection. So I went outside, I was watering the flowers, got through with that, and I sat on the porch for a little bit. And while I was sitting there, I heard a loud noise, but I thought something had fallen in the garage, and I still sat there probably 2-3 more minutes. So I come in the house and I hollered at him. I said, Brady, are you ready? And I got no answer. And so I went to the back of the house. Brady loved to shoot guns. So he had a little place in the backyard that he would do that. So I went back there to see if that's where he was at, and he wasn't. So I went to the bottom of the steps and I hollered at him again. He never answered. So he always wore his earbuds, and I thought, he's got his earbuds in and he can't hear me. So I was a little aggravated. So I went marching up the steps. And his cat, Precious, was standing at the top of the steps And when I got halfway up the steps, I could smell where the gun had fired.
The gunpowder.
The gunpowder. And I rounded the corner, and when I got around the corner, there was Brady. And he was gone.
And you being a nurse knew.
I knew without a shadow of a doubt, that Brady was gone. And I hollered for Kevin then. And then that's whenever you come up.
Yeah, I come up and saw him, and it's just like you said, it's the worst nightmare you could ever dream. He was gone. I remember going back downstairs and burying my head in the couch and just asking God why. But
so we called 911, and it was just like after that moment, everything was just kind of a blur the whole day. I remember that 911, having me to stay on the phone with them until the EMS or the police got there. And then our pastor was the first one to show up. Kevin had called him and told him to get over to the house quick, and he come.
There's a quote that says, "The hardest part of losing a child is living every day afterwards." Let's talk about, would you agree with that?
without a doubt, I've actually reached out to some other parents locally where we live that have lost children. And I will have to agree with what they told me, that it's the first thing you think about every morning when you wake up, and the last thing you think about before you go to bed at night. And they're right. It is.
Well, I just want to thank you for sharing that. I can't imagine that hurt and that tragedy, because it is every parent's nightmare, and grandparent. And so not having dealt with that personally, and having friends, and we know that there's so many who do, that are listening, that have this shattered heart. As someone who hasn't gone through this, we always wonder, what should we do? So what did people do that really helped you? What did people do right, so to speak? How did they come in and be a help to you?
I think the main thing that helped me is just being a listener. Let me cry, or let me be mad. Let me question God, and let me express myself. Because I think you find out through grief that there's no right or wrong way to grieve, and I've learned to feel every emotion. And our friends, our family, our community, they have continued. They don't dodge the topic of Brady.
Right.
We want to talk about Brady, and they know that, and that's very therapeutic for us, is to talk about Brady. So we wanted them to know, please don't dodge the topic.
Yeah. And don't you think that that's kind of what people do? When we don't know what to say, it becomes like, it's like you don't call.
Absolutely.
Because, with me, it's like, well, what if they're having a peaceful time and I interject this? Right. But that doesn't interrupt the peace you have.
Absolutely not.
I'm learning. It helps it.
Well, I was at home. It was probably 2 or 3 days after the funeral was over. And, that's the hardest part, after everyone leaves.
Thank you for saying that, because we needed to hear that. It's afterwards.
You're back home and you're by yourself, trying to get back into the normal routine you had before this happened. The first year at least is the hardest time.
That was the hardest. But I was at home by myself. Kevin had went back to work. And one of my very best friends, her husband, I was having such a bad day. And her husband just happened to show up at the door. And he just stood there. He knocked on the door, and he just stood there, and I just broke. And God sent him my way, because he knew I needed him, that, I needed someone to talk to and someone to cry on,
Absolutely. let's take just a minute and tell us about Brady.
Oh, Brady was full of life. He loved everyone he met, and everyone loved him.
Oh, yeah.
Every picture you see, he's always smiling. Never had a bad day. Never. I can honestly say I can never remember Brady ever talking back to me. Never. He would give me a look, and I'd say, Brady. But he just, we were at a ball game, after a basketball game, and he would just always just hug me. Or if he knew I had the camera, he would make sure he was in a good posing position for me to take his picture. And a man walked up to him and he said, Buddy, I've never seen a boy your age hug on their mama like you do. And he said, well, they don't love their mama like I do. So he was just such a loving kid, just full of life.
Brady, he was an aspiring Marine. And the thing that sticks out with me about Brady is even probably from the time he was 10 years old till he was 13 when he passed, he would always make an effort, if he saw a veteran with a Vietnam hat on, go up and shake their hand, thank them for their service.
Really?
Always.
And we always had to buy a veterans meal. He would always stop. We was at a basketball game one night and he handed us his stuff. And he saw a man in the distance with a veteran's hat on, and he went over there and thanked him for
He would
his
make a
service.
beeline for him. He would. Wow. He really would.
I mean, I've seen many pictures, and he looked like he was just full of life. And I do remember you saying that he didn't like silence, that when things got quiet, what did he say?
He said, love you guys.
I mean,
In the car, yeah. Oh, yeah.
These are memories you have tucked in your heart, and I bet you still hear it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a lot of grief I can't imagine. Right. But there is, I heard someone say this at a funeral just last week, and it just stayed with me, and I loved it. It says, grief is simply love that has no place to go. Yeah. Grief is simply love that has no place to go. And one of the reasons I wanted to do this show today is because I believe that grief just settles in people's hearts and they don't know what to do with it. But one of the things that I admire so much about you all is what you've created a place for your grief to go. And I think that story will maybe help someone else to have some ideas. So will you share with us some of the ways that you are allowing Brady's life to be extended?
Brady was an organ donor. So we were able to donate skin, tissue, and eye. It's like a 55-year-old man in North Carolina received Brady's eyes. So it's just things like that. Brady was such a giving kid, and that would it's something that just keeps on giving. He just keeps on giving. And so our family became ambassadors for Carolina Donor Services. So every June, this year it's going to be July, we have a golf tournament in Brady's memory, and it's called the Brady Sizemore Memorial Foundation Golf Tournament. We recognize a donor family or an organ recipient. Last year we were able to, we recognized a 52-year-old man that had received a heart from a 21-year-old boy that had been in a car accident, and we got to hear his story. But it's just through the organ donation that Brady is continuing to give and just continue the blessings of life. And so then every Christmas, Brady's favorite holiday was Christmas. Me and him just went crazy at Christmas. We
like spending a lot?
Yes, we loved Christmas. He started his Christmas list,
in August?
Yeah. It was so.
At least August.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the proceeds of our golf tournament, a portion of them go to benefit high school seniors. We give scholarships that knew Brady, to kids that knew Brady and that would just really appreciate where that money is coming from.
They had the one-on-one connection with him, you know.
Absolutely. Oh,
Yeah. So then we also have teamed up with a nonprofit organization called Mercy and Truth Ministries. Pastor Jeremy and Rebecca Simpson started that in 2017. And they do a lot for underprivileged children. They have an after-school program that help feed the kids. And so they come to us and give us their idea of the Christmas thing. And so they said, we want it to be in memory of Brady. And so we both come together, and we have 3 counties involved. In 2017, we were able to give to over 1,000 kids. This past year, we were able to give to 3,100 kids.
toys
Toys.
that are collected.
Right.
Throughout. We start collecting in early October. We start having toy drives.
Yes.
And then the older kids also, we provide for them. People will give cash donations, and we will buy for the older kids. Yes. The families, we also provide the Christmas dinner, and every family member gets a Bible.
Oh my goodness. How does this help you? How does this help you?
It's just the whole part, just the healing process. You go through, holidays are hard anyway.
Yes.
And to know that we are being able to put smiles on all these kids' faces, and to know that Brady had something to do with it.
Absolutely.
And this past Christmas, Brady, every Christmas, he would say, "Mom, I need a bike."
A bike?
And I would say, "Brady, you got a bike last year." And he would say, "But Mom, it's not Christmas unless Santa Claus brings a bike." So every Christmas he would ask for a bike.
Oh.
This year, we had enough donations that every child that had asked for a bike got a bicycle.
Oh my gosh.
And and you just look and say, "Thank you, Brady."
Yes.
Because that he had a hand in that.
And you know that he has a hand in it because of your deep faith that you have and that Brady had.
Right.
And I can't not talk about that in the show because we know what's really carried you through.
Oh, yeah.
So take just a minute and talk to us about how your faith is the bridge that's getting you through.
You mentioned something about like grief being the price for love earlier. Joy, as we were talking before, joy breeds joy, and when something like this happens to you, you're going to get better in your faith, or you're going to get better in your faith, And absolutely, the joy you see from someone else doing it in memory of our son, if that can't put a smile on your face through your darkest time, and give God the praise for it. You may need to check your faith a little bit. You should. You should.
Brady, the Sunday night before his accident, we had at church, it was just kind of like a service where everyone just testified.
Yeah.
And Brady was one of the first ones to stand up and give his testimony.
And what did he say?
And he stood up, and I'll never forget it. And he stood up and he said, "I just want to thank the Lord for saving my soul." And he said, "For giving me the best family and friends that any old boy could ask for."
Oh my goodness.
And that, that brings such comfort because, there's no doubt that boy is going to be waiting on me with that huge smile.
Absolutely.
And say, "Come on, Mama, come on,"
Absolutely. Let me ask you how I just want to keep thanking you all for your courage to share and what you've learned during this journey. One of the things that I can't help but notice is your relationship. Statistically speaking, in a tragedy such as yours, you don't see the husband and the wife, the mom and the dad draw closer. Statistically, we see just the opposite. I want to ask each of you to tell the other one what they did right that helped you through this.
You first.
He held me when I needed to be held. And there was no judgment when I became, if I had bitterness or anger, because our son had been taken away. He held me and he listened and loved me even stronger.
She done the same thing for me. She listened, but I never got as bitter as she did, because I looked at it, the way I cope with it the best is God didn't have to give us Brady. We were blessed to have him the time we did. And if we can accept that we didn't have to have him and we got him for the time we did, the rest is gravy. The rest is gravy.
People need to hear what you all are saying. I can feel the healing.
Oh, yeah.
I truly can feel the healing that's going on as people are sitting on their sofas right now and they're crying, and you're giving them hope, and it's the hope that God has given to you. Well, we've talked about what God did for you that was right. We've talked about what other people have done for you that was right. I've allowed you the opportunity to talk about what you did for one another. And I'm going to try to share something from someone else who says something that you did right. And this is from your daughter, Paige.
Oh, yeah.
Who couldn't be with us today because she's at college, struggling with that algebra or whatever. But from Paige today, and I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to read it if that's okay, but it says this. I asked her, what would you say that your parents did right? And she says, I think I would tell Mom and Dad that they did the best job at just listening. I blamed myself, Paige says, because I blamed myself a lot at first because naturally big sisters are supposed to protect their little brothers. And they would always listen to anything I had to say, whether it was me crying or screaming because I was upset or even laughing going through baby pictures of him and I together. I think the best comfort throughout this whole process is knowing that this pain is only temporary. And once I get to the other side, I get to spend an eternity with him. Brady just finished the race a little bit sooner than I did. Wow. What a family. What hope that you have given. And I just wanted to share that with you. Well, guys, I'd like to sincerely thank you for joining us. I know that your words have given hope to so many. And you've even given me ways to minister to people who are hurting the way that you've hurt. So thank you again so much. And I don't even know if I mentioned to our audience that we are family. You're my cousin. So, which actually made it even more extreme to me, seeing the hurt and the pain. And so as I have watched you, though. I have seen you handle this and really grow through this through God's grace. And so I just appreciate you, honor your life and your testimony, and Brady today as he is continuing his incredible work. So before we conclude, let me just ask you, is there a final word that you have to say to our friends who are listening today?
Yeah, I'd like to leave you with Brady's life verse, which was Isaiah 41:10, which is, fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I will strengthen thee, yea, I will help thee. I will uphold thee with the right hand of my righteousness. And if you can't cling to that promise, what God's give you there, it's not going to be it's going to be a tough road for you when you have to go through heartache. But if you can cling to that,
That was Brady's favorite verse.
His life verse.
Tell us what it is again.
Isaiah 41:10.
Isaiah 41.
Whenever we were adding on to the church, they asked everyone to put that verse, put their favorite verse on a 4x4.
On a board in the walls.
And that's what Brady put on his board in the wall. And then the day that he died, his friend brought his Bible back to the house, and that was the verse that was bookmarked.
And that was the verse that the pastor used to help give each of us guidance on how to live every day after his death. Gosh, you all, thank you so much. I just love you so much.
I love you.
It's just been
Thank you for
absolutely-
having us.
Thank you.
for having us. Gosh, I just want to thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a show that's been very difficult, and it took a lot of courage for these parents to come on, but they did it in hopes that it would help you through the grief and through the journey that you're going through. Maybe you have someone in your family, maybe a neighbor, someone who's lost, who has this hurt, has a shattered heart because of this loss. I just pray that this has been a show that can help and heal and give all of us hope. I want to leave you with another scripture, 2 Corinthians 1:4, because I know it depicts the courage that my friends have given us today. 2 Corinthians 1:4 says, God comforts us so that we may comfort others. Take comfort, our friends. God is with you, and He will be there with you every step of the way. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you for coming. Now, I have a final surprise for you, okay? We have to do something for Brady. So in honor of Brady and the toys, we want to offer to you today...
Oh!
It may be a little bit smaller.
Thank you.
A bike.
A bike for Brady. Oh, thank you.
I'm so delighted you joined us for coffee today. I'd like you to know that most of the stories that you hear on our program have been discovered through the transformational message of my first book, Burdens to Blessings. It's a journey of hope that guides men and women to understand that their lives matter and their stories can bring healing to others. If you'd like to discover the power of your story, please visit our website, kimcrabill.org. Thank you again for joining us. We at Coffee look forward to hearing from you.
Through it all, I can still smile, 'cause I've got the joy.